Ladies and gentlemen, it's time! Brought to you by Ringside, the best in boxing. It's the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. Introducing first, fighting out of the Zapata Brand Studio in Berwick, Pennsylvania. He is an expert in boxing and bagels, George Zapata!
Aaron Kennedy returns now. It's been a little bit since the last time we talked. Last time we talked, it was right around when you were fighting over in Broadheadville.
Yep.
You were at that time. You were what? 3-2, I believe the record was.
I was 3-2 after that, so I was 2-2 going into that one.
Right.
I'd won the last two, and then going into December, I was 2-2.
Okay. So, but before, let's get into it a little bit before that. Right as you were going into it, was towards the end of December. It was the Maverick MMA Awards going in for Fighter of the Year.
Yeah.
You ended up capturing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you win the fight, or you won the fight before that?
Yeah, right before. Yeah, so that was at the end of December. I won that fight like December 2nd, first.
Okay, and then they went, and you won it before that or after that?
After, yeah.
After that. So then you were on a roll there. So then you were going in, and really at that point you were just on that rise where you were going up to kind of make a name for yourself in this area in order to move on to your next level. Now, are you still with MMA, Maverick?
No. So this last one was so Maverick was in December. I mean, I fight for whoever gets a hold of me, whoever offers me the good fight, the good money, whatever. I don't have like a multiple fight contract with anybody. Okay. So yeah, December was Maverick, and then in June was Ring of Combat down in Atlantic City. Well,
let's go back to what have you been doing since our last. Like, what have you been up to before? Let's not get to that fight yet.
Yep.
That last fight. What have you been up to since then?
Just training, man. I mean, I train 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a day, depending on the day. But I mean, that's all I do. I'm training, growing, developing my skill set, optimizing my lifestyle however I can. But I mean, it's a full-time job.
Yeah. Have you been training exclusively in Bloomsburg, or are you going different places?
No, I travel pretty much for all my sparring now. I train usually once a week with one of my buddies, Ben Moser in Lebanon. He's another pro fighter, 135. So I get a lot of my sparring with him before camps. And then right before the one of December, I started training with Martinez BJJ, my buddy Matt Turnbull. He fights pro at 145. So he's just a weight class above me. So I was traveling down to Philly. I started before that December fight, traveling down to Philly, get my sparring with him. He's got, he's tough. He's got just a lot of tough guys there on their pro sparring days where I'd get most of my fight camp work leading up to that fight in December, and then also this one in June.
Right. What's the significance of traveling?
Well, it's necessary. I mean, especially in Bloomsburg, small area.
A small area.
I mean, you've got to travel, and you don't want to be the best guy in the room. If you're the best guy in the room, it's time to hit the road. Like, you've got to find guys who can beat you up, push you, test your skill set. And sparring with people that you don't see on a regular basis is good because it's a bit more heightened. Like when you're sparring with someone like that, you know them, but you don't know them well. It's a little more competitive. You're kind of competing. It's not just your buddy. It's work now. You know what I mean? If I hop in the car and drive almost 3 hours, we're going to go hard. Like, we're going to get work. You know what I mean?
Now, is that do you think it's a benefit for you now that you're able to do this full time, that you can get the work that you need? Because not saying that Bloomsburg is a great wrestling area. They have Bloomsburg University, a great wrestling area. But you're getting now the striking, the jiu-jitsu, and that all combined. Do you find Philadelphia is the area to be, or somewhere, by, whether it be New York or New Jersey? Yeah, I mean, Philly's nice. It's not, it's 2.5 hours for me to Philly, so it's a drive, but it's doable. You can do that on a weekly basis. So yeah, and it's a good area. They just have, it's just more densely popular. There's just more fighters there. I go, when I go to Match Gym at Martinez for their pro sparring day, there's 15 other pros in the room. You know what I mean? There's not. Are they in your weight class or a little heavier?
Most of them are a little heavier. Matt's 145, so he's just a weight class up. But they have a group of, middle size. They have a one or two 25ers. I might be the only 35er there off the top of my head, but they're close enough. I mean, they don't got to be exactly my size. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Just generally similar in size.
Let's go back to your fight with Jeremy Balboa. That was in Broadheadville. Now it was in PA, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now going into that fight, you seem like you were in shape, ready to go, and showed a big win for you there. As you move it, so now you get the Fight of the Year award, deserved, for MMA Maverick. Then you move to this last fight. I want to get into that one because there's a little bit of a segment I want to get into after the fight. So that was in June, I believe, right?
Yep.
June
7th. Yeah.
And your opponent, what was his first name?
Ahmed.
Ahmed, that's right. Okay, they fight him, tough guy.
Yeah.
Bigger. I saw the fight, and I'm going to put some in on some B-roll in the video. Going into that fight, you were on a high there, but now you're fighting in Atlantic City. I believe Dana White was there.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of you.
No, he was.
Was he?
Yep,
no
Dana
shit.
White was there.
Go figure.
He was there in the crowd. I saw a few interviews with him there. So he's there. He was looking for heavyweights and light heavyweights at the time. So I see there you're moving yourself into a position to get to that next level that you have to get to, because not that company is not a reputable company, but you need another step up. You need to step up. Well, then you're fighting a guy who's a very tough. Ahmed's a very tough guy. Explain, because as I put the B-roll in here, explain that fight to me, the whole fight. First round was a rough one. That was a rough round.
Yeah, no, that was that. Yeah, so I mean, going in that fight, I felt good. We knew he was, a step up in competition, but I felt good about it. He, he obviously did good film study, because sometimes I throw a teep into a shot, so a long front kick, and I drop right into a shot, which is pretty unconventional. But they had clearly prepared for that. So, I mean, the first 7 seconds, I throw that and timed it perfectly. Just put a knee right through my face, and in the first 7 seconds, and it broke my orbital, caved in my cheek, and then broke my nose. Okay.
So let's lay this out a little bit. Okay. Here it is. You're in Atlantic City. You're in a position where it's a big crowd. It was a big crowd there. When I saw the video, big crowd.
Oh yeah.
You didn't know Dana White was there. He was there.
Yep. And
you get hit 7 seconds in. What the hell's going through your head?
I mean, when it had fighted for first, I didn't know what the hell happened. I mean, I'm just the ding, 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 the bell goes. I go flying across the cage, and then I'm like, what? All I knew was that my face just felt crushed inward, like it hurt. Hands. I mean, ordinarily I don't really feel much in a fight. You get punched, but the adrenaline's going. But
it's more so in the body that you feel it.
Yeah,
when it gets to the body, like, oh shit.
I mean, even like the legs and stuff. I mean, my shins and stuff are conditioned. I usually don't even feel that. I mean, I have usually just doesn't phase me much. But this hurt. I mean, I didn't know what happened. I just knew my face hurt. I could tell my nose was broke, and my face just felt crushed inward. And all I remember is just telling myself, attack, 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 like. Just go. I didn't really pause to think. I mean, you can see I stumble around for a minute because my brain's probably half off. But I just told myself, attack, go, go, go. Got a little distance, got a little space, gathered myself, snagged a quick takedown there just to kind of regain my equilibrium.
Was he strong when you grabbed him?
He wasn't. I mean, yeah. He was strong. I was more impressed with his takedown defense was good. It was just technically sound. Like he was really prepared to dig for underhooks. But I did get that first takedown. Kind of gathered my thoughts, and then in the second half of the first, I put him on him with some nice combinations. And then so at the end of the first, I go back to my coach. What was that? He's like, it was a knee to the face. Don't shoot from far out like that. That was stupid. I'm like, oh, okay. And then in the second, I just, put on the pressure. I outstruck him, started giving him some knees to the face, and I could feel him kind of break. Towards the end of the second, he really broke.
Yeah, I did see him starting to break there, probably around the minute 30 of the second round. I think he put a lot on you in the first and thought, okay, if I get this guy out of here. But I don't think he took into consideration stuff you can't see on film.
Yeah.
You're kind of unbreakable at that point. Because I mean, if you get through a broken orbital bone, all right, That is one of the most painful
Yeah,
things.
dude, it hurt.
It hurts,
It
dude.
hurt.
It's bad.
It's
Okay.
rough.
Now, one of the things I think your cornerman was good at, he didn't say, I think your nose is broken. I think your orbital's broken. Because I remember when I tore my quad, I was about 40 seconds into the first round of my last fight. My brother didn't know. He's like, I don't know what it is. No clue. But don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. You probably just twisted your knee. But an orbital bone, that is a unbelievable deal because your eye is depending on that socket, and now it's like all jacked up.
Yeah, I mean, I was seeing triple vision. Like you can see pictures of me from the fight. I would close my right eye before I threw because I was seeing three of them, not even double. I was seeing three of them. So I'd go like this and then throw.
Was your eyes watering or no?
I don't recall. I mean,
it's probably
I couldn't breathe.
No, you can't breathe.
That was it was the combination of my sight going because I had to keep closing. I was just constantly like closing my eyes and I couldn't breathe through my nose at all. So I had to entirely breathe through my mouth, which as soon as your mouth opens, your jaw's destabilized. So that's not good.
So and you always tuck your chin in to protect that.
I keep really locked in. So that probably helped me a little bit, but the mouth being open wasn't good and I knew it, but I could not breathe at all through my nose. Like I had to open my mouth to breathe. So yeah, it was just very unsafe. I mean, and of course you don't want to get hit again because I didn't know how bad. I mean, I knew it was bad. It felt like my nose was over here. Like you see some of those highlight videos and you see the guy's nose just get squashed. It wasn't. It was broken up high closer to the skull. But it felt as if it was over here. So in my head, I'm like, man, I don't want to get hit again because you break it too much, they might stop it.
Right.
So it made me a little more conservative than I normally am. And just, the impact of a knee straight to the face, coming down, my brain was rattled.
Did you at all try to blow your nose?
I tried once and I felt it. And I was like, oh, we can't do this.
Don't do that.
And that was the moment when I realized, oh, it's definitely broken because I did that. And I felt the pressure in my eye. I was like, all right, can't do that. Just breathe out your mouth. Yeah, I had that realization. You can actually see it on the film. I go, and I just dropped my hand. I'm like, leave it alone.
Right. That's a one thing. And I don't know when, you noticed it in that immediate round.
Yeah.
So going into the second round and you were saying, okay, now I'm going to just attack. Yeah. Did you not go 100% because you didn't want to get too close to him? Like what are you thinking at that point? Because again, you want to grab him. You want to get as close to get him on the ground.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, you tried that and got cracked right in the face.
Yeah.
So what's your thinking now?
So I knew I was pretty confident that I could outstrike. I mean, he had looked like a Thai base. He was definitely a striker. His grappling was not as good as striking, but I was also pretty confident that I could outstrike him. He was just too defensive. He didn't handle pressure well.
I think that had a little to do with him being tired too. Yeah. I think he got gassed out a little bit there.
Yeah, and I mean, my pressure almost always tires people out. I just, I don't give anybody room to breathe. So yeah, going into the second, you can see I backed him to the cage, worked feints, chopped the legs.
I saw the knees were big,
and that's kind of where I found my openings because he was really ready for the takedowns. So I just went to the clinch, the Thai clinch, and blended it with the front headlock and just blasted him in the face. And you could tell he wasn't ready for that. So that's kind of the adjustment I made in the second was, all right, he's defending takedowns well, clinch, let's see what he has there. And he immediately felt weak to me in the clinch. So I just kept, firing those knees. And I knew they were bothering him because every time I blasted him, he'd put a hand down on the canvas. So I couldn't. And I'm like, oh, he's hurt.
Right. These are I saw him trying to put his hand down, doing the half down, half not, which I thought, okay, if I was the ref, I'm saying to him, yo, you either up or you're down. Don't be putting that hand down. That was stupid for that the referee didn't jump in on that one that I saw. I said that should be definitely either stand up or down, and then you would obviously have the advantage on the down. So the round two gets on. Now it's 1-1. I'm watching the film there. It's 1-1.
Yeah.
Now, what did your corner say between round 2 and 3? Or do you even remember? I mean, I don't know.
I do. I mean, they didn't say much other than, the only thing I remember is they're just saying he's breaking, he's tired, just keep pressing, keep pushing, keep attacking.
Did you feel that too?
Yeah, I could feel. I mean, now I mean, that's the first time in 16 fights I've ever sat down in the corner. Like normally I just pace. I never sit in the stool. The doctor made me sit after the first round to look at it, but we kind of yelled at him, said, "Get out of here, I'm fine."
Right.
But that was actually the first in 16 fights. That's the first time I've ever sat down because breathing through my mouth really took it out of me. So I knew I was tired, but in my head, I know my conditioning is is top notch. So I was like, man, if I'm tired, he's got to be dying.
Right.
So and I also knew that if I did get him to the ground, I could absolutely out grapple him. So in my head, I was just going to keep throwing because I outstruck him pretty handily in the second. So I was comfortable. Like,
you dropped him, I believe.
Yeah, I dropped him with a 3. Yeah, right hand dropped him.
Yep.
And that was kind of, I think that was kind of like when his will really.
Oh, his face changed.
Yeah.
His face changed. He was just kind of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This guy, I just smashed this guy in the face. He's obviously, his nose is broken. I mean, I could see it in the film. It was. But then you have to come back, hit him, drop him, and then you were right on top of him.
Yeah.
So round 2 ends, you're into round 3. Where did you start saying, okay, I'm going to win this fight? Because I mean, obviously, first round, I think you thought, okay, oh, shit, that was bad. But now you recovered the second round, breaking him that way. How do you get him into the position to finish him?
So we'll back up a little bit. So after I dropped him with that right hand, I knew I was in his head because, striking's his forte and I'm out striking him. So I could just feel as soon as I dropped him, got right on top of him, I could feel him just start to wane. And towards the end of that second, was it the end of the second or maybe it was the first? Somewhere in there, he started doing, he stuck his fingers in my, like fish hooked my nose and trying to like break it worse.
I think that was in the second round, right in the beginning. I think it was in the beginning.
Because he fish hooks my nose. I'm like, man, this guy's getting desperate. Like that. To me, I'm like,
yeah, people get desperate, they start doing that stuff.
he's cranking my brokenness in his head. He's like, dude, what do I got to do to put this guy away?
Right. No, well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. When I saw that, I'm thinking, holy shit, this guy's going to everything. This guy's, I'm surprised he wasn't going to hit you low because it seemed to me that just his face, especially if you watch this fight, right after he got dropped in that round, I thought this guy's looking for any way to either make it to the third round to the decision, or he's going to try to just, kind of just stall out, try to do anything. But then he doesn't want to get in the ground with you.
Yeah. So he fish hooks my nose. I'm like, man, this guy's a bit of a piece of shit. Like, I personally wouldn't do that. I'm just going to outfight you.
No, I would try anything at that point.
I mean, I guess if I was fighting me, you see
I'm trying anything.
Some dude coming at you like the Terminator thinks, but then he bit me. And I was pretty
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, he bit the top of these 2 fingers. So I had him. It was at one of the times where I had him kind of in that front headlock position. Bit the top, but thankfully it wasn't reverse, or he would have cut through the skin. But yeah, he bit me with his bottom teeth. I had bruises on my middle and ring finger. I had never been bit before in my life, but to me, I was just feeling like, oh, he's done. If he's biting and pulling my nose, like he's crushed. He's like,
as a fighter, too.
Yeah, like, you could just feel it. So yeah, he bit me. I guess I didn't see it, but one of my buddies said he like spit on me in between rounds. Man, he's doing whatever he can.
So what was the setup for the finish?
So the finish, that was a beautiful finish.
How you got underneath him and flipped back the other way. And I'm going to try to put that on here. I don't know who has the rights to that.
I'm pretty confident. I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty confident that's the only pillow choke submission in ring combat history, which has been around for a long time because
it's hard to get.
Yeah, they didn't even know what it was. They had when they announced it as a pillow choke, I'm like, you can see me look back like, oh, he knows what it is. And my coach Joel's like, he didn't know what it is. They had to come ask me what that was. They had no clue.
Right.
But I learned that from Vlad Kulikov, who has Sambo Fusion Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Texas. And he's my buddy Ben that I mentioned that I spar with. He's belted under Vlad. So Vlad comes out and does a couple seminars a year. And I learned that from him about a year ago. And it was just one of those things that clicked for me. It worked well with my style. So yeah, to get to it, I was blasting him with those knees to the face. He kept dropping to the ground because he didn't want to get kneed anymore. And I went for what he thought, and you could tell the commentators thought was a Darce choke, but it was a pillow choke the whole time.
Right.
But when people feel that grip in that position, they assume a Darce is coming. So he did what most people do, which is they belly out. They roll to their back. You can either belly out or roll to your back, but he moved to avoid what he thought was a Darce and walked straight into
it. I saw
bread and butter.
Yep, I said, oh shit.
He thinks he's fine. And then he's tapping like urgently.
Right. Because you don't realize, and I mean, the way you had it positioned was unique. It was unique. And again, it doesn't happen often, but you got him in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you win that, obviously ecstatic.
Yeah.
And it was because, dude, listen, you're in there, you're breaking your orbital bone, you're going through. Just as someone who loves the fight game, I'm thinking, man, that is awesome. That's great. You win that. It's a great feeling. But now let's do the aftermath. Okay. And this is where I always get concerned with fighters. I know when it's like to be like, when you come back in the locker room, you're probably like, I don't want to see a glove. I don't want to see an octagon. I don't want to see nothing for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because your body hurts.
Yeah.
Just does. Everything hurts. Obviously, massively, that your injuries itself.
Yeah.
We'll get to those in 1 second. When does that adrenaline come down for you that now you're like, okay, how bad was this?
So I knew, so usually I'm on cloud 9 for a week. In that case, I knew as soon as we got out of the cage, man, I was like, yo, we got,
you were coming home.
I was like,
remember.
I was like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah,
like,
I remember. Because I texted you and I thought you were going to be down there. I said, hey man, I might be going to Atlantic City. We're out.
Like, we were like, so I mean, I knew as soon as we got back there, you know, the not being able to breathe is probably the worst part, because it just made me a little bit anxious. Like, I don't like breathing out of my mouth. And then the cheek, so the cheekbone, that break was the worst, because it starts. So there's 2 plates in my face. There's one here in the orbital, one in the cheek, but the cheek goes from here down and like right to the roof of my mouth. That was the worst, because it was like it was like a concave break. So it didn't blow out, it blew in and crushed. There's 2 nerves that run here, and it crushed that nerve entirely. So I couldn't feel my teeth on the right side of my mouth. This was all numb. Yeah, dude. I mean, my face was like crushed inward.
Well, you sent me that picture.
Yeah.
Oof, buddy.
I was like, I mean, it was bittersweet though, because I'm sitting there in the hospital. I'm like, man, if you can't finish me after this, you can't. I mean, I was still kind of on a high, because I was like, you know, that's pretty much especially grappling based fighters, you know, worst fears. Well, dude, what if I get kneed in the face for a takedown? And my coach is like, oh, what if you just kept on trucking anyway? It didn't. If that doesn't stop you, nothing will.
All right. So let's get to that point. So after the aftermath, and you're going to have, you obviously had surgery to put in. There has to be something that creeps in your head. And I mean, I know you're a fighter and you're here on, you know, you're on the air.
Yeah.
But I know, you know, that is one, scary. 2, you kind of look at a different perspective. How are you going to be able to compartmentalize that and say, okay, this is part of the game that I chose? But I would say, like, how would your I don't know if you're married yet. Are you married yet?
No,
kind of engaged or whatever.
We live together.
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna go home to your girl, and I mean, this is an everyday thing, man. Like that's something that I don't know. I guess the question would be like, there's risks and rewards to this, but is your wife / fiance / live-in gonna be able to live with that, saying, hey man, Aaron, your face is smashed to bits, you won the fight, it was awesome, you did great, but what's the end reward here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, for her, it was an eye-opener for her. I mean, that was, you know, the 2 fights before that, prior to this fight, all 2023, I didn't get touched. I got 2 first-round finishes. No one even touched me. So she was kind of in the habit of, all right, we're gonna go to fight. Aaron's gonna smoke somebody, and then we're gonna go party, and it's cool. This is the first time she saw me get hurt, so it was an eye opener for her. She was like, oh, I've got to have like a med kit, and because the hospital experience there was terrible. Atlantic Care was terrible. I'm just gonna say that. Awful hospital experience.
Well, you were in the emergency room for a while,
dude. We got there at 11. They didn't get me into bed until 7 o'clock in the morning.
Holy crap.
I mean, I'm sitting there bleeding. I don't know how. I mean, I lost a couple water bottles worth of blood, just bleeding everywhere. My face is all jacked up.
Did the promotion not send you there?
They said that was the closest hospital. I mean, it's a blur. But that's the hospital we went to, and you know, they were more concerned about kicking junkies out of the bathroom than like getting me to just give me some Tylenol, give me something.
Right.
So she was, you know, so it was an eye opener for her. She's like, all right, I got to be more prepared for this. I got to know where the good hospitals are. But it ultimately doesn't change anything on that front, because since she met me, I told her this is what I'm doing. Regardless of what happens, it doesn't sway my focus. It doesn't sway my goals. You're gonna make adjustments. Technically speaking, like I'm not gonna throw Teep into a double leg anytime soon. So you're gonna make technical adjustments, but it doesn't change what I'm doing. I mean,
right, but I mean, as far as like her, yes, she's on board 100%. Is there ever a time where you're going to say, maybe I won't show her this opponent I'm fighting? Maybe I won't show her this guy's beatings that he's put on people. Does that ever creep in a little bit? Because I know it would for me. Like I mean,
so she's not a huge. She knows it's what I'm doing, but she's not like she's not watching fight film with me. She's she's kind of distanced from it. Like when I come home, it's like, all right, turn the gym off and just be a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not, she's kind of not one of those women who's super involved in the career. She helps me organizationally and stuff. But like when I'm fighting somebody, she doesn't really ask much. She just says, well, I see how hard you work every day. I assume you're going to win, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know how much it'll change that. I think it'll just probably make her more nervous in general. Like now that she understands that's part of reality, like this could happen again.
Mm-hmm.
We hope it doesn't, but it's the game we're playing.
So how long till after that okay, so everything gets kind of settled in. You get your surgery. You had a horrible experience in the hospital. You get your surgery. You're put together, like Humpty Dumpty. You're kind of put together. And how soon after that do you kind of like, okay, now, because when it first happens, I mean, I know a lot of people say, nope, I want to get back right away.
Yeah.
How far into it's like, okay, I think I'm comfortable enough to get back in physical activity, not sparring, obviously, where I think you're still a little bit out from that.
Yeah, that takes time.
Just physically getting back and being around the guys and saying, hey, I feel better now.
So
how long?
So I was in the gym it was the 8th, I don't know what day of the week. I was in the gym the following week, doing my cardio on the bike, obviously no contact.
Right.
But I was in the gym the very next week, back to my conditioning program. I waited a few weeks to lift just because of the pressure in the face, but I was doing conditioning and flexibility stuff the next week.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was in the gym,
so your body wasn't exactly beat up. It's just the fact that you had plates in your face.
Yeah. I mean, it was just my face. And I mean, honestly, once they screwed them in, it was sensitive and swollen. The nose is the thing that's the slowest to return.
Do you have problems breathing now?
No, I breathe fine. It's just, I can just tell it's not, I tried sparring probably 3 weeks ago, which was 2 months post-surgery, and it just started, it hurt to get hit still, and it started bleeding pretty quick. Shit. And so I just wasn't going to push it. I mean, I'm in a good place. Because initially I was going to try and fight in October. I felt like I was feeling good, but as soon as I started sparring, it started bleeding. I was like, all right, we got to wait a little longer. So yeah, the nose is the kind of the last thing to come back, because the cheek was so bad they had to take the bones weren't going to heal. They just scraped them out and put in just straight titanium. And that, so that's not going to break. That's stable. Once it's in there, it's in there.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was supposed to fight in October, and prior to that I was training, and I tore something here, but it must have been torn way before.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when you're in there, you're saying, you know what, it feels. I waited a month or so. I said, you know what, this don't feel so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried. Sure enough, there's no way. There's just no way. So knowing your body, are you comfortable enough to say, come December, or because if you're gonna have to go into training camp, you're gonna have to go in the next couple of weeks. You have to go in. If you're gonna fight in December, now I think your cardio is there, but your reflexes might not be there. Your sharpness might not be there, because it would take me 3 to 4 weeks to feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you're looking to do, try to fight in December, or would you rather wait it out a little bit? Just wait it out just to say, okay, maybe I won't do it this year and start next year. What is your ultimate plan for what's your next move, essentially?
I mean, I'm definitely fighting in December. We've got an opponent pretty much on board. We're pretty much booked for December. I definitely need, I'm doing well, but I need to keep getting fights. I need to keep winning. That's the name of the game. You want to get to the top, you got to stay busy. Dana White doesn't care if your face hurts. He wants you to fight. He wants you to be active. He wants you to get there. So come December, I'm fighting. And as far as training goes, like I'm back to rolling and grappling. I'm not doing any sparring, but I'm hitting pads. So I'm doing most of the things I need. And, some camps, you don't need much. Like that fight in December, I tore my PCL completely in half, training for that fight in December. So I only sparred total for that fight. I sparred like 6 rounds total, and it was just enough to feel it, get hit a little bit, and get comfortable protecting my left leg. while sparring.
Mhm.
But I did almost zero sparring for that fight, and I finished him in the first round.
How many weeks do you feel comfortable to get in where you're comfortable? Has there ever been a training camp you said this was the perfect training camp? Everybody's hurt, we get that, but injured wise is different. But where's the time where you feel comfortable? Is it 5 weeks? Is it 6? I know people that do 8 weeks.
Yeah.
What's comfortable for you?
The more time, the better. The more time is always better for me.
How about the sparring? Is it sparring? Yeah. Do you
Sparring,
like
I mean, I've sparred. I think the more that you do it, the more fight camps you go through, and this is kind of my coach's thoughts also, the more you do it, the less you need. Like you kind of hit a number, because a lot of that hard sparring before fights is just making sure you're comfortable with the heavy impact, your vision, everything's dialed in. I think in most cases, the more you've done it, the less you need. You still need some, like for a standard camp right now, I only do 1 or 2 weeks of really hard sparring, and then it's a little bit lighter, really hard pads. But I don't just go in the gym and fight every day. I mean, it's just not good for longevity. I get sharp to where I need to be, and then I kind of chill.
Where do you start feeling sharp? Do you think, is it 3rd week, 4th week?
Yeah, like probably 3-4 weeks before a fight, I'm locked in.
Before a fight.
Yeah, and then the last 2 I taper down. You don't want to get a last minute cut. You don't want a last minute injury. So we start dialing things up, weeks 6 and 5 out, and by weeks 4 and 3, I'm locked in. Everything's where I want it to be, and then we taper down. So I still do hard work in weeks 2 and 1 out, but it's shorter duration, so your nervous system is on point and you're not fatigued. CNS fatigue is like a big thing. Guys train too hard, too close to a fight, and their nervous system itself isn't. It's not even your muscles. Your nervous system itself is just worn down from just training from training hard. The process of a camp, the stress of hard sparring, it adds up, and your nervous system needs more time than people think to fully regenerate. So those like 2 weeks before I start to chill and focus on recovery, and the work's been done at that point.
So you're looking at December. Is that pretty much
Yep.
Okay. So when you first, now you're sparring, have you been cleared by a doctor to spar yet?
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. The doctors cleared me before I thought I was good. And I think, I'm glad they did, because I don't have to jump through those hoops. But yeah, my surgeon cleared me. She said the bones are essentially set. So from a structural standpoint, I'm good.
Okay.
But my own intuition and the way things feel, I know it's not quite ready for impact. I don't want to be one of those guys who jumps back into it and now he breaks his nose every time he fights. So
Yeah.
I'll let whatever, the deep tissues, the cartilage, whatever's going on in there that still needs a little more time, I'll give it the time it needs. I'm grappling, I'm not sparring. But like jiu-jitsu stuff, I'm doing that already.
All right. So now you're looking at December to return. Well, as we get back to that, you have a guy kind of picked out. When you set your sights on someone that you have set for, like, let's say December, what's going through your mind? This is a different time now. This is different because you're coming back from an injury, which you never had, something like this. It mentally, like I'll give you an example. When I got back into it, mentally, I could not throw the hook because this thing was totally gone. That's the hardest part. The fact, though, I'm not a professional fighter, so I don't do this for a living. This is your livelihood. If they told me I couldn't make bagels and something, I'd have to try to adjust to make it because of my livelihood. What are you going to do if you're in there and you think, oh, I'm going to dive? Because even when I said to myself, I'm not throwing a hook to the body, you still do it. It's that muscle memory. You see it opening, you're going to throw it, and it hurts. Does that, number one, affect you mentally? Do you think it's going to affect you mentally? And 2, how do you adjust in your training camp?
I mean, I think it does cross, especially the first few times you return to that place, it crosses your mind. But like, I'm already shooting takedowns again. And for me, the only adjustment really is, I just have more confidence in my stand-up. I mean, so that during that fight, that was 14 minutes of fighting with a broken face, and the takedowns weren't effective. So I had to rely on my striking, and it was very effective. I did well. I was more comfortable. So honestly, it really just kind of gives me more confidence. I got to put my striking to the test, pass that test with flying colors. And for me, yes, I got injured, but the fact that the injury didn't stop me, it's not like I got knocked me out. I just kept trucking. So for me, it doesn't. Obviously, I don't want it to happen again. But for me, it's like, man, that's that could stop me. What is, So I really just have a newfound comfort and confidence in my stand up and my ability to just do what I got to do to win the fight.
Have you talked to Ahmad since that fight or no?
No.
Did you talk to him afterwards?
No. So I mean, he was, there's no nice way. He was kind of a scumbag. At weigh-ins, he's like talking shit to me. I don't even know what he said, but I just remember, I step up the scale, I shake your hand. I don't got to put on an act. We're going to find out in 24 hours. Like, there's no need to act, but he's, I can tell by his body language and the tone of his voice. He might have been talking in a different language for all I know, but he starts chirping right at the scale, and I just laughed at him, and he didn't like that. You could see it on the weigh-in videos. He's, chirping. I just laughed at him and walked away, and then he's kind of pacing back and forth like he's all pissed off about it. So I didn't like that. That was kind of the first thing I didn't like. And then, we're all the fighters are in the same hotel, we're on the Tropicana. So every time I passed him, he's like puffing up and, mean mugging me. And I'm just like, what's up, man? Like, we're going to find out tomorrow. There's no need for, this is fighting, not theater. Like, you don't got to act. We'll find out. And then, yeah, like the fish hook in the nose, the biting me, he, at the end of the first round, he was, running his mouth from across the cage. I just like, all right, you're gonna get some more of this. Like, if that didn't stop me, what the fuck do you think you're gonna do? Like, you think that you blow a knee through my head and I'm still coming forward?
Yeah.
You think running your mouth is gonna change things?
Yeah, no. See, that's the thing I love when that happens.
It's like you, if that didn't scare me, what do you think is you running your mouth?
So he just was pissed off the whole time, or he didn't say nothing after the fight.
So right after the fight, after I choked him out, you can see it. And this is the first time because in general, martial artists should be ruthless but respectful. You know what I mean? So when I beat somebody, I shake their hand. This is the first time I didn't. I'm always respectful, victory, defeat, whatever. But I walked over to him while he was laying on the ground, and I told him, I was like, "You're not talking shit now, are you, motherfucker?" Like, I was pissed, man. Like, I screamed at him, and he hopped up, and they broke us apart. And I didn't talk to him. He didn't stay to listen to like the judge's decision, and then a week or two later, he's in my DMs on Instagram, like, "Hey man, great fight." Well, I just ignored him. I mean, that's if you conducted yourself respectfully the day of the fight, yeah, I would have answered you, whatever, you two, good job. But if you're gonna carry yourself like that and then try and be a nice guy after you get smoked, that doesn't resonate with me.
No, I don't think. It's funny, when I saw it, I thought for sure he would be more subdued because after that. But then when you take into consideration the guy was probably pumped up. Was he from a Jersey? Was he a Jersey guy?
No, he's from like somewhere in the Carolinas, north or south.
I thought he was a Jersey guy for some reason. And then you get beat like that, dude. Come on, that's got to be embarrassing too.
Yeah, he just kind of stomped off. I mean, it's.
Have you ever had that before?
No. That's the first time. I mean, I've had people, get like a little bit aggressive or whatever at weigh-ins, which is normal. But as soon as they start talking, I just kind of roll my eyes like, this is the fight business, not the talking business. Yeah. Like,
it's funny because everyone would always, when they would talk shit, I can remember my trainer would be like, it's not like they're going to hit you harder. It's not like they're going to bring whatever they bring. That other stuff is just like background noise, he calls it. It's like, that doesn't matter. Yeah. Was he going to hit you harder because he's, bad mouthing your mom, bad mouthing your girlfriend? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And that's another thing. Mentally, your strength comes from wrestling, I think, from the wrestling background.
Yeah. I mean, I just know, mentally, there are no chinks in my mental armor. I know it. I mean, I've been through every kind of adversity you can imagine, and it only made me stronger. So that you can talk all day. I'm just gonna laugh at you, and we're gonna fight, and we're gonna see what happens.
When you're a free agent now, obviously you go to whatever things on. Do you know where exactly maybe your fight would be, your next fight? Or do you have an idea?
Yeah. It's going to be, I don't know which of their venues, but we're talking to Art of War right now. They're solid regional promotion, Philly area. So it'll be back in PA, which is nice. I had my fans drove 4 hours to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make this one in PA. So it's a shorter drive, it's just a little bit nicer for them. I mean, they drove a long way. I mean, dude, I had like 80 people in the stands there at the Tropicana. And that's a big, regionally speaking, that's a big crowd to hop in the car on a Friday night and drive 4 hours. You know, they either had to get a hotel room or they had to drive back late at night. So, you know, I'm glad to be fighting back in PA just to kind of do them a solid for all their support.
So you think that it's going to be in December?
I'm very confident I'll be fighting in December. Not, you know, until a contract's signed, nothing is set in stone, but I'm gunning for December.
Do you have anybody in mind at all?
Yeah, I mean, we do. We, you know, had a guy reach out to me wanting to fight. I don't want to jinx anything, but, you know, he reached out. He's been around a long time. He's a Bellator vet. And he reached out saying, you know, hey, you look like you're on the come up. You know, he's towards the end of his career, but he's like, I'd like to really go out with a bang. So if we can set something up, let me know. And so I got a hold of Bickings, who's at Art of War. And he's like, yeah, let's set this up. So yeah, we're pretty much there. We just got to sign the paper and we're good to go.
Well, what's your trek ultimately? Is it obviously UFC would be the number one content, but what does that trek look like? Just for people who don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's different for everybody. At the end of the day, you keep fighting, you keep winning. I mean, when the rubber meets the road, that's the difference. Are you fighting? Are you winning? You know, some guys get in with 6 wins, some guys get in with 12. You don't know. A lot of it is timing. You know, when the UFC needs somebody, are you ready? You know, if I get a message in 3 weeks, can I show up whenever they need me? So you have to stay ready. You have to keep winning. And that's about all you can do. I mean, I don't think there's no cheat codes. You know what I mean? You just keep fighting, keep training, keep winning, and stay ready. You have to be ready to fight next week, really, is where you need to be. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, when I mean your trek, like, do you have a set goal? Meaning, okay, at 30 something, I want to be in the UFC. At 39, I want to retire. Is there a trek that you have that you're going through? Is there like a goal in mind where you say, I want to be there by this point? And what is it going to take for you to get there?
So I think that's a good question. You know, a lot of people like to make, you know, goal setting, like timelines. Fighting, it's hard. You know, for me, it's almost the opposite. For me, it's like, I want to get there. I want to fight the best people in the world. I want to test myself against the most dangerous individuals in the world. And I don't care how long it takes. I don't know. Like, I can't control when I get that call. All I can really control is that I keep working, I keep fighting, and when the call comes, I'll be ready. I almost think you set yourself up for disappointment if you say, well, by the time I'm 32, I got to be there. Realistically, you don't know. So I don't kind of set myself up for expectations that may let me down. I just say, I'm going to do this or die trying until my body can't, and we'll see what happens.
How's your body now? As far
It's
as
good.
you have injuries? Well, don't say that. But is your body comparable to what it was prior to that fight that you just had?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, my body physically, I'm not even in my prime yet. I mean, physically, I can feel, you know, my numbers and, you know, my strength numbers, all of my physical metrics are on the rise. I mean, so my body as a whole, I'm not even in my peak years yet. You know, fighters in general, 32 to 34 is kind of their peak time. It depends on how much mileage you put on. You know, there's some guys like, you know, Max Holloway, who was fighting the UFC when he was 20. Yeah, his body's got more mileage, but, you know, in my case, I don't have as much wear and tear. You know, my peak years are going to be 32 to 36, somewhere in that range, and I can feel it. You know what I mean? Some people mature sooner, some later. You know, thankfully in my case, I think I'm later, and I'm just hitting my stride now.
And the difference between highway miles and town miles.
I mean, I take really good care of my body. I mean, my recovery. I mean, the way I eat 12 months a year is weighed, measured, counted, it's clean. You know, I just do everything you can think of. The cupping, the ice baths. Don't even drink alcohol anymore. I mean, my body is well recovered, well rested, and it's only getting better.
Did you think that maybe you should have gone in a little bit earlier at all? Or did you, or maybe you weren't ready? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we all, you know, I think most fighters are like, man, I wish I would have started earlier. Yeah,
Do
there's
you feel, let me ask you this. When I say early, I mean, do you feel like, okay, when you're sparring somebody where you're like, man, I feel so much more comfortable now. I wish I had this comfortable at 22
Mhm.
and here you are at 30. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does. Or many people do kind of feel that way. But at the same time, I believe most things happen when they happen. It's just the way, it is what it is. I almost don't really dwell on it because here I am, I'm 30, I'm on the rise, I feel good, and I'm gonna get there. So it happens when it happens. But yeah, I certainly would have liked to have been better sooner.
Mhm.
But it's that's water under the bridge at this point.
What was your hardest part there that you felt that you had to get, where you felt control of, all right, grappling, you're good. This was it, your striking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as far as skill development, yeah, I mean, striking was certainly the last thing to kind of come.
Which is amazing
Yeah,
because the last fight you had, the striking is what carried you.
yeah,
Honestly,
yeah, oh yeah,
so that tells you your development is going in the right direction.
yeah,
So if I was in consideration, if I was saying, okay, who's someone that's coming up, Aaron Kennedy, I'm looking at as someone, hey, this guy was suspect in his striking ability, great grappler, conditioning, cardio were good there. All of a sudden, you made that advancement there. Is that
Mhm.
attributed to a certain coach, or is it something you've been
Yeah. I
working
mean,
on?
my two primary coaches, Joel and Dan. I mean, they put countless hours and just lots of time and energy into my strike. I mean, we're always working. So my striking's been that good for a while. I just was finishing everybody so quick nobody could see it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? If you keep choking people out or ground and pounding them unconscious, nobody gets to see that. So we were glad that I got 3 rounds to kind of show I can do it all.
Oh, right.
But it's only got we've only refined things since then. All of our pad work has been adjusted. We're constantly adjusting and making things better. So yeah, that was definitely the toughest part of my skill development. But I have such a good system now. My striking in the next couple of years is going to go right through the roof.
Now I know it's a tough question to answer, so we don't need it around about time. So in the next few years, let's say 3 years, are you looking to move into title contention for a regional guy, or do you want the big picture? Because I think, like in boxing, you have to get yourself established somewhere underneath where it's local, and then move on. Where do you see yourself going to get that opportunity? Is it with local guys that there? Because it seems like someone would be, if you're selling 80 tickets at a regional show, there's got to be a promoter that's saying, hey, this guy's selling tickets. Let's this guy a title shot at some point here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to have a regional title to get where I'm headed. If that offer comes, I'll take it. I mean, yeah, that's 80 tickets in Atlantic City. I mean, that's 4 hours away. And in PA, I sell like 150. So
Yeah.
like,
So your fan base would be something that someone could build on here. Now it's a little harder out this way. It just is. It's hard to get shows together for the local guy putting up, especially nowadays.
well, I mean, like the Philly area is great for me. It's a couple hours. My fans don't mind.
I'm saying Bloomsburg.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They know you
yeah,
here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Bloomsburg, Danville, Burke.
yeah.
So they would know you, but
It's tough to
it's
do
tough
that.
here.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. But
so
yeah.
you don't think yourself going to get a regional title first and do it, or you just whatever comes up, I'm taking to get to the UFC.
I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't, I'm just gonna do it. Like,
And that's not
yeah.
to shit on
Yeah.
a small regional thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I expect title fights will come.
Mhm.
If you keep doing what I'm doing, you keep winning, you have a fantastic fan base like I do. It's just a matter of time. I mean, they'll come. I'm just not focused on. I'm focused on my evolution, my development, my career trajectory. But I'm focused on it one fight at a time. I know that a lot of those things, the accolades, the opportunities, I keep winning, they're just going to show up.
Mhm.
I know this.
Speaking of this weekend, UFC 306. I don't know how much you follow it. Obviously, it's a place where you want to be.
Yeah.
Bantamweight division,
Yeah.
kind of right around where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either way.
This is. Yeah.
What's your feelings on O'Malley? And now Marab is a wrestler, probably one of the better ones there. O'Malley, striker. So total opposite fighters. Although O'Malley has a good takedown defense, Marab's one of these guys, similar to you, who's got that motor that can keep running. Now,
Yeah.
this is a fight where I feel will kind of open up the division. If O'Malley wins, he's a superstar. Merab wins, well, I don't know where you go from there because he's got a couple fighters that he can fight, but there's going to be wrestling. It's more wrestling. Sugar is a guy who has the charisma and everything else. What do you see on that fight, or have you looked at it much and broken it down?
Yeah, I mean that's my weight class, so I'm watching that one. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, whenever I watch the UFC, I'm pretty much watching the other 35ers and studying them, comparing them to how I match up. But obviously, this is the top of the division, so I'm watching it closely. It's an interesting fight. And I kind of expect it to go one of two ways. I think it can honestly go in either direction for either guy, but I don't think it's going to be close. I think someone's going to win pretty handily, and it's an interesting fight because there's really no secrets. Like, we know what O'Malley's going to do. He's going to counter strike. He's going to float the distance, and he's going to try and pick you off. Merab's going to come forward. I think he's going to throw a little more. He's going to do a little more striking than people expect.
Oh boy, that might be a bad move.
It's a bold move, but
Yeah.
I mean, once you're locked in that, what else are you going to do?
Well, he's got to get close. He's got to
get close, and if he doesn't mix it up with the hands, O'Malley's going to see the takedowns coming. So, and I'm sure O'Malley kind of knows this is what's going to happen. I think Merab will throw a little more than people expect, and ultimately look for his takedowns. And either O'Malley's going to counter strike him successfully, or Merab's going to get inside, get a takedown, and freaking maul O'Malley on the ground. It could go either way.
The one thing I saw with Merab, his last couple fights, boy, he got caught, and he got caught by Henry Cejudo. He is small. He's tiny.
Yeah, Merab or Cejudo.
He's small.
Yeah.
O'Malley ain't small. Now, that's where now initially when I looked at it, I think Merab's going to win. I think he's going to maul him. I think that's going to be the end of that. But then I was looking into the details of this, and holy shit. I said, if you're getting hit by them, getting rocked by him, and he got not rocked by somebody else, I forget who rocked him pretty bad too. Might have been Sandhagen. I'm not sure. Rocked him really bad. Maybe it was Aldo. Whoever it was rocked him really bad. That's when I started to question: is he going to be able to strike with O'Malley? Because O'Malley's not small. O'Malley's very big, large for that weight class.
Yep.
How do you think you'd match up with them? Or let me give you, how would you match up with them, and what would be your what would be your key to victory there? Let's start with Merab first.
Yeah, I mean, so that's
because that you figure there's a wrestler,
yeah,
you're in that area.
I mean, realistically, that's jumping right to the top of the ladder.
Yeah, hey, why not? What the hell?
But yeah, I mean, assuming my skills develop in the direction that I believe they will, Merab's an interesting fight because our styles are pretty similar. But I think that in a couple of years, my striking will be better than his. So that's a fight that would take honestly more thought. It'd be a matter of how good is. I mean, I know my grappling's good, and it's only going to get better. So it'd really be a question of, did I think I could beat him on the ground or not? And I'd have to. I've seen his takedowns. He's got great takedowns. I don't know what his submission offense looks like off the top of my head, but I wonder how he is once he gets right to the ground. Like, what's his control like? How good is his submissions? That's an interesting matchup that I don't honestly have all of the details necessary to know how. I mean, I would take time to think about it. O'Malley, on the other hand, is kind of a more straightforward approach, and I can tell you, I've actually watched O'Malley a lot more because he's kind of the traditional stylistic matchup that would give me problems. So I was actually watching him 2 days ago when he fought Chito Vera. And I think the reason Chito got pieced up there was because he didn't have enough offense and he was too hesitant. So I saved a couple. Actually, it's funny you asked this question because I saved a couple clips on it just a day or two ago. So it was like in the second, Chito throws a jab, O'Malley counters with a right hook to the body, and then Chito stops. And the way I would approach a fight like O'Malley is I would throw in my coach Dan says be first, be third. So I'd fire a jab, see what his counter is, and then be ready to counter his counter. So if I were Chito in that particular instance, I would have thrown the jab, waited for the right hook to the body, and then thrown a lead hook over the top because his face is wide open.
Mhm.
But Chito got, a little gunshot. Understandably, O'Malley's, got a lot of power. But as soon as he threw that right hook to the body, Chito backed out, and which didn't give him an opportunity to counter.
So ultimately, you're a better matchup for O'Malley or Merab?
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. No, I
yeah,
get it. I get it. I mean, that'd be like,
yeah, very hypothetical. But yeah, I mean, I think I would strike first, strike third. And then when O'Malley started thinking about, oh shit, he's countering my counters, take him down. And because I do think we haven't really seen O'Malley get to the ground much. I think once he gets there, he's probably going to struggle. So that's kind of what I'm waiting to see is when he and Merab fight tomorrow. If Merab gets him to the ground, what's O'Malley look like as far as getting back up? Does he have offense from the ground? I'm just very curious.
Surprisingly, when it opened, Merab was a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
The odds are almost close to a pick 'em, and now they've switched to O'Malley. Who are you leaning towards tomorrow night?
I always tell people that picking fights is unless you're really studying, it's hard to know with like real conviction. But I mean, I'm just leaning towards Merab because stylistically we're more similar. So of course, I kind of want to see my style, triumph over.
Oh well, I mean, O'Malley's a tough nut to crack.
He's very good.
I mean, he's good at what he does. He's fast. He's quick. He's tall. A fast meaning hand speed, quick meaning he can move either way.
Yeah, he has good movement. He's sharp. He's quick. He's surprisingly quick for his length.
I know.
Usually those longer guys, they're not quite as quick. But because I was just studying the O'Malley and Cheeto fight, O'Malley was quicker than Cheeto, which I didn't expect. I mean, Cheeto looked slow, so I'm really impressed with how quickly and how sharp O'Malley's movements are despite his length.
And his pinpoint accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He'll get you on that chin, and that'd be a bad spot to be in. So you're gonna watch the show?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you watch all of them? Because some people just don't watch them. I don't know what it is.
I pick and choose. I pretty much, if there's multiple bantamweights on the card, I watch them just because I'm watching my division. I'm studying them. I'm learning. I'm thinking about it. I take notes. I've got shitload of Word documents on just all sorts of stuff. So I'm always taking notes and watching and studying them. But outside of my division, I don't watch. I don't watch much. Every now and then when there's a big fight, I do. Mm-hmm. But in general, I pretty much just watching 35ers.
Well, where is Aaron Kennedy in 5 years?
The UFC.
So that's a goal right now.
Certainly, yeah.
And how do you get there? I mean, granted, you're putting the work in. We know that, mm-hmm. But again, you're against that. Father Time is still undefeated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At 30 years old, you want to get moving.
Yeah.
How does Aaron Kennedy get to that position? Do you make noise? Do you, start knocking on doors, or, what would be the approach if you're going to tell a young fighter that's coming up? What's the approach to get to the UFC?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. In my case, just from the last few wins, a lot of doors have opened. I got, I'm going to start training down in New Jersey. My buddy Andre.
Oh, where you at?
Taino Martial Arts. My buddy Andre invited me to come down and spar with him. And there's Pat.
What part of Jersey?
Mount Ephraim.
Okay, that's South Jersey.
I've never been there. But
we don't consider that Jersey.
Okay,
South Jersey.
Count.
No, South Jersey don't count.
So yeah, I mean, I've got some offers to kind of start sparring and training with better guys, and that's kind of the path. I think you keep winning, you keep training, you keep doing the right things.
And kind of hard up here, though, don't you think? It's kind of a little bit difficult because football's huge up here. Boxing not so much. Baseball's big up here. MMA is kind of few and far between up in this area. So it's got to be hard. You ever think of moving?
Yeah, I mean, I think I won't stay in Bloomsburg forever. But I'll also wait and I mean,
it's working now.
Yeah, it's working. I still have room to grow with where I'm at. But when the time comes, I'll move. Close to a gym that is, that I have good chemistry with, because you see too many guys go to big gyms with big names, and just because, this is American Top Team, this is whatever they are, they're big name gym, and they think just by being in the room with those people, they're going to get good. You need to find a gym with coaches who give you time and attention, and you have a good natural chemistry with, sparring partners that you click with. So I'll continue to, shop around. And when I find the gym that feels right, I'll probably move there.
I'd like to get you hooked up with Charles Rosa. You know who Charles Rosa is? He was a UFC fighter.
Name's familiar, but
Charles Rosa and Lucas Rosa. See if I can get you hooked up with them. They're down now in Florida, but they do come up to Scranton every now and then.
Oh yeah, that'd be
cool. Because a guy does have a gym and he was just here recently. But I know his uncle, Thomas Rosa, is a masters boxer. And I know he comes around the area a lot. That'd be someone I think we should hook you up with.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Former UFC fighter. Lucas is on the upcoming. They're from Boston, but now they're training down America Top Team down in Florida.
Okay.
So we got through where your goals are now. What are your goals in life, though? Like, what are we going to see Aaron Kennedy married, kids, moving away? What are we going to see that with life wise? Like, what are you looking at?
Definitely no kids.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah,
there really isn't.
I've never.
That's not being selfish either.
Yeah.
There's people that always say, "Oh, that's selfish." It's not.
No, it's not.
It's not you.
It's just, and I think it's disingenuous to yourself if you don't really want kids and you have them. You're not going to take care of them proper. I've never really wanted kids. I never really wanted to raise a family, so I'm not going to do it. As far as goals, I do have a lot of goals, obviously with my career, but again, I've got 10 years. I'd like to retire by 40. I'm not going to be one of those guys who is still slugging away in his 40s. I'll preserve my health. After fighting, it's hard to say. I mean,
is there something that you're looking at and say, I'd like to do that?
Yeah, I expect I have I'm going to write. I like to write. I expect to write a book and get into speaking, public speaking. I don't want to say motivational speaking, but focused speaking on different topics that I think would, just help people improve their lives. I did I guess you call it a mindset speaking engagement for a marketing company at the beginning of the year. It's like 70 or 80 guys on a Zoom call, nothing big, but I really enjoyed that. It was more or less kind of, like my prompt was to help them look at door-to-door sales in a more engaging way, how to keep them motivated, how can they adjust their perspective. And so that's what I did. And I really enjoyed it.
Okay. So you say you don't want to go to motivational speaker, but what's Aaron's why? Like, okay, so that is motivating though. There, but so you're looking to be more of a leader, like taking leadership skills to a different level or doing something like that. Is that something that interests you?
So, I guess, yeah, if you really want to get into it, I'm just obsessed in general with becoming a master of myself, becoming a master of my body, my mind, and just what it really is to be a human being. Like I'm a spiritual person. And I think a lot of people aren't really connected with that and they haven't studied themselves deeply. So at some point I want to write about that and speak about that. That's really the long-term goal. Like I got my degree in philosophy. I studied like traditional yoga, not the watered down American stuff, like the actual 8 rungs of the ladder. And I found a lot of value in that. And I think there's more to being a human being than everyone realizes. And I'd like to somehow connect to that and share it with people, honestly.
This time right now that we're in the United States, it's really crazy. Mm-hmm. So would you think that that type of philosophy, I think it'd be welcome now to a place, if they gave you the reins to say, how do we get people in this country not so divided? I think martial arts is great for that.
For sure.
How do you, if we gave you the reins to say, Aaron, how do we get this country back to loving each other? I was funny. I just saw something and I remember seeing this, but I just saw it. It came up on my timeline when Sammy Sosa came out of the dugout with the American flag and ran around. I don't think we'll ever see that again. I really don't. I think we're so divided in this country, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, everyone is so divided in this country. How could someone like you bring people together with the way you think with martial arts and leadership?
It's a tough question. I do ask myself kind of this, like, how do we fix this big problem that we're in?
It's big.
It's convoluted. It's tough, but I think it starts with the way people look at themselves individually. I don't think people pay attention. I don't think people pay enough attention to themselves, their thoughts, where they come from.
Meaning?
So honestly, if I had to give everybody one tool, I would say that, like, schools everywhere should start teaching kids how to meditate. And I say this because, and meditate it's such a woo-woo stigmatized word. But at the end of the day, what it really means to me is to sit still, observe your thoughts, and see where they come from. Okay. So if you sit still, like if you have an opinion about somebody and you watch it pop in your head, it came from somewhere. It didn't come from nowhere. And when you watch like, oh, this, trying to think of a good example. People just attach themselves to their ideas without knowing why. Like when I come up with a belief, it's through a course of like rational thought and reason instead of, well, this person that I like thinks this, so I'm going to think that too. I think people just, adopt ideas that aren't really their own, and then they get emotionally attached to them, and then they're angry at everybody who disagrees with them, but they don't even know why they think what they think, if you're following me.
Yeah.
And then they're upset. Like you shouldn't be picking, and I'm very apolitical because I think it's the whole system is a game that we're designed to lose. So I have a hard time with politics, but you see these people who like, oh, my favorite celebrity is voting for so-and-so, so am I. Why don't you formulate your own thoughts and come to a conclusion instead of letting someone make it up for you?
Do you think that has a lot to do with the propaganda? Whereas, and I'm saying that because here I am sitting on YouTube, now next thing I'm going to get banned. But I feel the one, like, there's no Walter Cronkite out there. I think you're too young for that. They say to him, here's the paper, read this line. But he was like, I want to know why this happened. There isn't that anymore. They don't got that no more. They say this is the paper to read, and this is what you're going to do. And I know this because if you go from New York to California and anywhere in between, the news is the same on certain channels, and the news is the same on these channels. How do you get? And I think they would never do it on our level of the to the kids level, where the schools, because they're now formulating their own way with how we're going in that direction. Right or wrong, whatever it is. But how do you get kids or even adults, young adults? Because I think once you get past a certain age, that's what you are. My mom's not going to change her views on whether it be this person or this person. She's not, and so be it. I can't control that. How do you do it to have kids and young adults think for themselves? Because let's take it for you in your fight. You had to think for yourself, say, oh shit, I can't go for that move anymore. I got to strike with them. Even though you were uncomfortable striking, you sat there, made a decision by yourself to have to strike. And on the split second, you thought about that. How do you get kids and young adults to switch their mindset into thinking for themselves and not listening to the celebrity, not listening to the guy who says, oh, we're going to take care of you. And in reality, they're not.
Yeah. It's tough, but you have to start with kids. Like you said, adults they've already decided.
I think after 40, you're kind of like, I'm not changing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just have to really, like, I think the number one focus in education should be independent and critical thinking. Like, give someone a problem, don't tell them how to solve it. They have, try 10 different ways to solve it. And when you solve it, whatever way you use worked. Like, don't give everybody things to memorize. Say, hey, here's the problem. Here's how you do it. Memorize this. Memorize what I told you, and you always solve the problem. Like, we do too much of that memorization thing instead of critical analysis. Like I said, I got my degree in philosophy, and it's very open-ended. So if there's an essay, they'll say, tell me what you think about physician-assisted suicide. So like, do you believe that your doctor should be able to help you kill yourself if you're terminally ill or not? And tell me why. And there's no, like, you have to come up with a line of reason, a logical argument, like, with a premise of, yes, I think you should, allow your doctor should be allowed to help you end your life, or no. And then you have to defend it. And you can see whether it's logically consistent or not, but there's no formula there that you follow. There's no template where you plug stuff in. You have to think for yourself, and then you have to be able to defend your idea. And then the flip side of that is that, someone argues against you and they give you a line of reason that kind of proves that your initial idea was wrong. You have to be like, okay, I see your logic. Turns out I was wrong with my idea. I'm going to change my mind based on the evidence you gave me. So it teaches two things: how to think for yourself and how to accept when you're wrong, given new evidence. And I think people really struggle with that. Like, people really have a hard time accepting sometimes they're wrong.
Yeah, and I think that is a big problem. It's the lack of accountability or the lack of, like you say, critical thinking and thinking on your own, gathering your own information to formulate a plan. And similar to fighting, you're going to have to figure it out at some point. It might not be for you to do this fighting game anymore. You might, a lot of people stay in it too long and they get beat up and that's it. So at what point do these are your philosophies that don't agree with others? Are you comfortable with saying that's fine, but I agree with this? This is what I feel. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So do you feel that you going into that after fighting, going to that, do you feel you could make a difference in people who are going to be fighting or people that are just people in general?
I think people in general, man. I think that some of my perspectives, and again, we're all off the cuff here, but but given appropriate, preparation and thought, I think I can just give people in general some tools to kind of look at themselves and the way they think, the way they live, what they do, that would just help them really like own their own lives instead of just, I don't want to say robots because that we hear that all the time.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Things are going a certain way
There's
here.
a lot of people who, I feel like they're living a robotic life and they don't know why they do what they do. I think there's just a lot that I could contribute to people on a whole. And I think it would make me feel good to kind of give back. And, I put a lot of work into develop, I've come a long way as a person and it's all just self-determined, behaviors that help me become happy with who I am and where I am and what I'm doing. And not a lot of people can, many people can't say that. Many people are unhappy with the lives they're living, And
that's another thing. But I want to get on one point here. Was there a reason that you didn't want to have kids? Because the only reason why I say that is because there is nothing like I'm just going to be honest with you. There's nothing like seeing my two boys develop into young men and me teaching them the values that I have and saying, you be a man. This is what you do to be a man. This is what you do. This is how you take care of your family. This is how you take care of your wife. This is not a knock on you. It's not an indictment on you at all. Was there a reason why? Let me ask you, was it because of your childhood or no?
No, I mean, I honestly don't think so.
And again, I never wanted.
Yeah.
I just would never did. But it's the best thing I ever
I've just had a couple. I've kind of had a couple since as long as I could remember. I've always kind of had like this core vision of myself. I've always felt that I was going to kind of do what I'm doing. I always had this sense that I was going to do something pretty important. And it's just core beliefs. Like I'm going to do something and within that kind of bumble of core beliefs from when I was a kid, I just never saw me having kids. Like I guess part of it is that I feel if I have kids, that's extra obligations that will limit, my freedom and ability to do other things. Like if you have kids, you can't just hop on a plane and go wherever to do what you need. You have other things to consider. You have other responsibilities. And I just think not having kids gives me maximum freedom to do what I wish. But I've just always kind of felt that way.
Okay. So now let me ask you this for the last, I'm going to wrap up here in a little bit, but I want to get a little more, I like the Aaron Kennedy outside of fighting too. Yeah. Okay. So I love getting into the mentality part of fighters and what they, being, this is who you are. Yeah. So do you ever have any regrets? And I know it's cliche to say, no regrets. Were there any regrets that you had in your life up to now, 30 years old? And it's kind of hard to say, I've lived 30 and I have no regrets. Are there any regrets that you have looking back as to where you formed your opinions and your fighting spirit and whatever? Do you have any regrets? That, man, if I would have done this, it would have been way better. It could be nothing. It could be like, no, I really don't. But I'm just saying, there's got to be something where you're like, shit, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Like stuff I just wish I would have done different, because like I said, I love who I am today and it's been a beautiful journey so far. But yeah, I mean,
it could be anything. It could be life. It could be sports. It could be whatever.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the only thing I would have done different, and again, it's bittersweet, but I started partying real young,
Yeah.
like in high school and in college. I mean, in college, I actually didn't as much in college. I would just say, I wish that at a younger age, I was more mindful about what I put into my body. You look at, you just look at the data on stuff like that. And, if you're a high school kid drinking beers on the weekend, like your brain's still growing, it's slowing you down. You know what I mean? I think if I would have just been I think if I would have been more of a student in life at a younger age, because I wasn't always, I was, I was, I was always like I was in like the honors, like English class. I was good at reading and writing, but the rest of school, I didn't really pay attention to, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I didn't take it seriously, and I didn't understand why it was important. I was just obsessed with wrestling, but if I would have understood the importance of being a student in life in general, like if someone would have came, like I never paid attention to math, but if someone would have came to me before I started taking math classes and said, "Look, it doesn't matter if you can figure out this problem. Like this problem itself, square root of 538, that doesn't matter. But developing the ability to solve the problem matters.
Mhm.
Like problem solving, recognizing patterns, those things that you'll hone that in a math class, and then you'll be able to apply that ability to solve problems to run in a bagel shop. If someone would have connected those dots for me, and I was more of a student in life in general, younger, I think that would have taken me farther faster.
Give me some good books. Give me some books if you have read them, or I mean, I know if you're doing philosophy and looking at leadership and mentorship, there's got to be some good books. Give my audience some good books.
Oh man, there's a lot of.
Give me your favorite top 3 that are gonna blow people's mind.
So outside of says I read a lot of science fiction, but books in that lane. The very first book that pops into my head, it's an old book. It's, I don't know, from 50s or 60s, but it's relatively popular. But then again, maybe not. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's a great book. The guy's a Holocaust survivor, and he lived through the Holocaust and was able to find meaning, in a freaking concentration camp. And he went on to found what I think is called logotherapy. He became a psychologist after this, but he was able, and just there's not even words for how terrible that was. But he found meaning in life in spite of all that suffering and pain, and it's just kind of his account of it and his beliefs. That's a good one. Just for people they think they got it tough. You're not in a concentration camp, and this guy found value.
Yeah.
So I think it's a short book. It's not very long. Another good book, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He's a really great writer. He can take a lot of he just ties things together in a way that I've never seen another writer do. But Outliers basically talks about people who excel in their field and kind of the hidden things that made them do it. I forget exactly which, computer field guy it was. It might have been Bill Gates, but I don't know for sure. But he talks about how, this, whoever he is, didn't just become wildly successful because he was a genius. It's because he found opportunities. So like back when computers weren't in every house, he had a key to a computer lab so he could spend more time working. Like sometimes finding opportunities, putting yourself in the right place at the right time, skewing the odds is what makes you successful, not just raw talent or ability. So that's a great book.
Do you ever read stuff like Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad Poor Dad, stuff like that?
A little bit.
Because it seems like you lean more towards the philosophy kind of theories on life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's more about meaning, purpose, becoming the kind of person that you envision, and I think a lot of that stuff will come. Like I'd rather get rich being completely true to myself, living and acting and feeling the way that I want to on a daily basis, and the money will come, rather than doing something, following a formula and I'm loaded, but like, I don't really know who I am. I don't know why I exist. And I don't know what my thoughts about life itself are. So it's in a sense, it's a selfish viewpoint, I guess, but I'm focused on myself, developing myself, and I believe everything will follow.
Do you ever want to know why you exist? Or do you try to find that out now?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I got into philosophy, and that's a long story. But in a nutshell, I'm not I'm not like an explicitly religious person, but I'm very confident that when we die here physically, we go elsewhere, and the game just keeps going. That's that's kind of at the root of myself as a person, is that I don't think we're here for 80 years and then we turn into worm dirt. I think that, you know what I mean? Like it's, and a lot of people live like that. They're like,
Right.
all right, I'm here for a while, nothing matters. But if you come to the conclusion that there's more than that, it's easy to not take yourself seriously if you think you're here for 70 years and then you go back into the abyss. But if you come to the conclusion that you're like, an eternal or much longer lasting being than you thought, if you look at yourself and, man, somehow in some way that I can't really imagine, I might exist in 1,000 years, your decisions, your choices, your thoughts have more value, because what I do to George today, he might remember in the next dimension in 10,000 years. And if I did something wrong, he's going to be pissed and he didn't forget.
Right.
You just, when you start thinking in an interdimensional mindset, and there's just so many words you could use, but if you start thinking that there's more than what we see, the whole entire way that you live and the way you look at yourself changes.
It's kind of like endless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thinking about it, it's like, oh, well, what happened here in 2024, maybe it's going to happen. I believe also that we've lived this life before somehow.
Yeah, and
There's like
people have lots of-
we're in like parallel universes where there's someone somewhere that's doing a podcast now with
yeah, it's
Aaron
possible.
Kennedy
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah,
I just can't imagine us just, that's it. I don't think we should off like a computer. I think there's something else that's got to be there.
Yeah, and I think when you consider the fact, so I in a very simple nutshell, I think that we're electromagnetic beings in physical bodies. When we die here, there's an electric explosion in our body, and the electromagnetic form of ourself gets jettisoned into a dimension that we can't perceive now,
Mhm.
but you can perceive when you're
It's hard to wrap your head around it.
It's very different.
It's
And that's
unbelievably hard.
unless you have to have some sort of experiences or something that brings you that conviction. And until you've had that, it just sounds ludicrous, which is why I only talk about it sparingly right now, until I've taken the time to really write it out and present it to people in a complete package. But yeah, when you think about yourself as, wow, maybe all these world religions, maybe they had pieces of the puzzle, maybe it wasn't correct, but they were onto something.
Yeah.
They didn't just make this up. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some fragments of truth there. And if you could figure that out, it would change our world dramatically. Like, what is the actual truth of reality?
I think that eventually we have to figure it out,
I think we're
because
getting close.
it can't. I mean, this has been the most wild, I think 4 to 5 years I've ever been experienced.
Yeah.
Because you had the housing market crash years ago, and then all of a sudden you have the elections, then you have just one thing after another, and it just seems like we can't get it right.
Yeah.
And whether it's the higher power saying you better get it right,
Yeah.
else we got a problem. You're good. We could.
Yeah. I mean,
Whether that's the case or not, I don't know, and I'm not perceiving myself to know. But I look at it how my divorce was, whereas I went to the divorce. It wasn't final for 3 years, and in that 3 years, my wife that I'm married to now, husband had passed in those 3 years. And how did we get together at that point, at that time, where we were both ready to date, to find each other from a pandemic where we're the only two there?
No.
It's an incredible story that I'm thinking there just has to be. And that's why I wanted to find out about not just Aaron, the fighter, and my audience is to see who Aaron is as the person.
Yeah.
So they get invested in you, so that when you are fighting, they're invested in Aaron Kennedy, not just the fighter, Aaron Kennedy, the person.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. I'm just always, I'm a little bit complex, and I never want to represent myself incompletely.
Mhm.
So when you have all the, thoughts, beliefs, plans, you want to make sure people understand them correctly. So that's kind of why thus far I've been hesitant to kind of present the rest of myself and my goals, because when I do that, I want to make sure it's complete.
Well, it's it, but then again, it'd be like going down Route 11 and waiting until the lights are all green.
Yeah,
you know, you won't go nowhere.
Yeah, that's the perfectionist mindset.
Right, and no, you're 100% right.
Yep.
Every fighter that I know wants to be perfect, but unless you start that, man, and I think your message is important to get out there, because eventually, Father Time catches up with everybody, and even in the world of fighting and baseball and football, it catches up with you, and you'll have that head start already. So I think it's important for you to get your word out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've done, a couple other podcasts where I kind of hint it in my other aspirations. So yeah, I am trying to.
Oh, don't hint, brother. Let's get this rolling. I think you have
pave the way.
I think you have something there that we need now.
Yeah.
I mean, believe me, it's crazy world out there. It's crazy world. So, I mean, Aaron, as I wrap this up, I want to get your social media out there so people can follow you and get on this bandwagon here. Aaron, you're on a 4-fight win streak. Nothing better than that last fight that I've seen. An incredible push through of a fight that in the first couple seconds, your orbital bones broke, your nose is broke. The mentality that you had to get through that is unbelievable, and it shows the courage and the talent that you have. Me getting in there, I know what it's like to get not that kind of injury, but tearing your quad and trying to get through a fight where it wasn't nearly, we were both not in our primes. You were in your prime with a guy who was in his prime. So to get through that, man, that's a crazy story. I mean, is there anything that you want to tell people that follow you as fans and that are going to watch this and become fans? Because I don't know how you can watch this and not become a fan of Aaron Kennedy. What do you say to them, whether they're struggling now or going through adversity? Because you went through an adversity there. That is as big of an adversity you can get in a fighting game, but getting through and pulling through that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I went through a lot of difficult things in my life that cultivated mental fortitude. So you can't really become good at dealing with pain, suffering, adversity unless you've been through it. So if you're dealing with something, look at that pain as an opportunity. Like, if I can overcome this, I can get good at overcome. It's a skill. Everything's a skill. So don't look at your misfortunes as a curse. Look at them as a blessing, as an opportunity. How can I grow from this? Don't feel sorry for yourself. How can you grow?
Well, I can tell you've grown since the last time we were here, and we're going to make this a little more regular. I know it's been crazy busy for me. I was back and forth. And I was glad you reached out to get you in here. We were getting the studio done, so I wanted to get it done, and I want to get more people inside. We're going to be following you. Give out your Instagram. Give out your any social media that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm most active on Instagram. It's AMKMMA135. Follow me on Facebook and stuff too, but it's just my name. But Instagram's where I post most of my fight stuff.
Good, and actually, we'll be following you all the way to the next fight, hopefully in December. When we do, we will have tickets on sale whenever you can. You give them to me. We'll get them out. We want to do a giveaway, whereas we can get you guys tickets to go see Aaron once we hit that 3,000 subscriber mark. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. We want to give you away. We want to get them there to your show. Aaron, as always, it's good to have you on, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.